Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Stephanie and I appreciate y'all stopping by. Today I will be showing y'all how I made these 4 easy Pottery Barn inspired Christmas decor pieces. I hope y'all enjoy the video, and if you do, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Let's go ahead and jump into the first DIY. For this first project, I used 2.5 packs of these stocking hangers from Hobby Lobby, 2.5 packs of these deer figurines from Hobby Lobby, all of which I got on sale for 60% off, some Rust-Oleum forged hammered spray paint in the color burnished amber, and some Gorilla Glue. I started by using an alcohol wipe and cleaned the top of the stocking hanger really well, and then used a clean paper towel to dry it off. Next, I applied a generous amount of the Gorilla Glue to the bottom of one of the deer figurines and placed it on top of the stocking hanger, getting it as close to centered as possible, and set it aside to dry for several hours. I then repeated this step to attach the other 4 deer to the other 4 stocking holders. Once the Gorilla Glue had time to fully set up, I took all 5 stocking hangers outside and gave them 2 good coats of the Rust-Oleum burnished amber spray paint, and this one is done. I am absolutely in love with these stocking hangers. I've wanted some for a long time but didn't want to pay a fortune for them at the store. Here's a look at the Pottery Barn stocking hangers versus the ones that I made. I actually prefer the deer on mine over the ones from Pottery Barn, but what do y'all think? Did I nail it or fail it? Quickly moving on to DIY number 2. For this next project, I used 2 pieces of a wood fence panel I picked up at Lowe's for $2.27. Each piece is 31 inches long and 5.5 inches wide. A stencil set I picked up on sale at Hobby Lobby, a template I traced off the original piece from the computer, Rust-Oleum wood stain in the color American Walnut, Waverly chalk paint in the color Snow White, and some wood glue. I started by placing the wood glue along the top edge of one of the wood pieces, leaving a few areas without the glue so that I could apply some hot glue for a quick hold. When I had the wood glue all along the edge of the wood, I went back and added a few dabs of hot glue to the areas where I had not applied the wood glue. Next, I placed the 2 pieces of wood together and held them until the hot glue had time to set up. I then flipped the sign over and used a staple gun to reinforce the seam on the back side of the sign for a more secure hold. After I had the sign put together, I took the Rust-Oleum stain in the color American Walnut and stained the entire sign, front, back, and sides. Once the stain was dry, I took some carbon paper and taped it to the back side of the Merry Christmas template. Next, I placed the template onto the front of the sign, getting it as centered as possible, and used some tape to help hold it in place. Then I took a sharp pointed pen and traced along all the letters to transfer them onto the sign so that I could hand paint the words. Here you can barely see the marks left by the carbon paper on this dark wood, but it is visible enough off camera to paint. Next, I took a pointed paintbrush and Waverly chalk paint in the color Snow White and painted the words onto the sign. I didn't worry about covering every inch of the wood in the letters because the original sign was very distressed. After the words were dry, I took the Snowflake stencil I got at Hobby Lobby and placed the snowflake that was the closest match to the original onto the sign in roughly the same place, and used a pouncing brush and some more of the Snow White chalk paint and stenciled it onto the sign. I then moved the stencil to the next area where there was a snowflake on the original sign and stenciled one there, and then repeated it to add the third and final snowflake to the sign. Again, I did not use a lot of paint because I wanted the wood to show through for a bit of a distressed look. Next, I took the Happy Holiday stencil from the stencil pack I've had for years and placed it down onto the sign where the 2 trees are on the original, and took the pouncing brush and some Snow White chalk paint and stenciled on 2 of the trees. When the paint was dry, I took a chip brush and some more of the Snow White chalk paint and dry brushed it all over the front of the sign, making sure not to get too heavy. Next, after all the paint was dry, I took a medium grit sanding sponge and sanded the entire front side of the sign to distress it a little more and to tone down the white color of the design, and this one is finished. I think this sign turned out fantastic and can't wait to display it on my mantle. Here is a look at the Pottery Barn sign that inspired this sign. I saved a ton of money making it myself, and I was able to customize the color to fit my decor. Mine is about an inch taller than the one at Pottery Barn, but it's the same exact length at 31 inches. Today's video is part of the Christmas collaboration playlist. I participated in this playlist along with these 6 other incredibly talented creators. All of these ladies are extremely talented and never cease to amaze with the gorgeous DIY projects they create. If y'all haven't checked out their channels, I highly recommend doing so. I don't think y'all will be disappointed. I'll leave a link to their channels as well as a link to the Christmas collab playlist in the description box below, so be sure to check them out once you finish with my video. Moving on to DIY number 3. For this project, I used 3 of these 5/8 inch dowels that are 36 inches long from Walmart. These are the ones that have the red paint on the ends. Some of these warm white copper wire lights from Harbor Freight, some Krylon Fusion spray paint in the color gloss white, one of these 12-foot branch garlands from Walmart, and one of these 9-foot Sonoma cypress garlands also from Walmart. I wanted this snowflake to have the same dimensions as the one at Pottery Barn, so I started by cutting all 3 dowels down to 30 inches. Next, I took 2 of the dowels and cut them in half at 15 inches. Then I had my husband take those 4 pieces outside and cut them at a 60-degree angle on one end. To assemble the frame of the snowflake, I placed a 30-inch dowel in the middle and took the other 4 pieces and placed them so that the points would be in the center of the long dowel. Next, to hold them in place, I used some Gorilla Glue hot glue to attach the ends of the smaller dowels to the center of the large dowel. For a bit more stability, I took a staple gun and added a staple to the pointed ends of each dowel. Next, I flipped the frame over and reinforced the dowels with more hot glue. Once I had the frame nice and secure, I took the 12-foot branch garland and cut a piece just long enough to cover the long center dowel and used my staple gun to secure the garland in place. I continued to repeat this process until I had the frame completely covered with the garland. I took the extra pieces of the garland and filled in any of the sparse areas on the snowflake. Next, I took the 9-foot Sonoma cypress garland and cut it apart, making sure to leave 2 branches on each piece. Once I had the garland cut apart, I took the piece with the wire hanger and placed it at the top of the snowflake on the long dowel, using zip ties and pieces of the branch garland to secure it in place, since this is going to be the hanger. After I had the pieces in place, I cut off the ends of the zip ties and repeated this process to add 2 more pieces of the cypress garland to each section of the snowflake. Then, with the leftover piece of the cypress garland, I cut it apart and used it to fill in the center of the snowflake, using the pieces of the branch garland to secure it in place. I felt like the frame needed a little something extra for security, so I took one of these wood circles from Walmart and used hot glue and staples to secure it to the back of the snowflake in the center where all the pieces came together. Next, I took it outside and gave it a light dusting of paint with the Krylon Fusion spray paint in the color gloss white to make it look like it was snow-kissed. Then, to finish off this project, I took these warm white copper wire lights and wove them in and out of the foliage on each section of the snowflake. I found it easiest to do this with the lights on. I used zip ties to secure the battery box for the lights on the back side of the snowflake so that it was hidden but the remote would still work, and this one's finished. Y'all, this thing is huge. It is 2.5 feet in all directions. It's so pretty in person. I never could get the camera to take a photo or a video that actually showed the beauty of this one. Here is a look at the light-up snowflake wreath from Pottery Barn and mine side by side. I know they're a little different because they are made using different types of foliage, but they are the same size, and mine is remote controlled and has 7 different light options. And last but not least, DIY number 4. For this last project, I used 2 of these tennis rackets from Five Below, 2 of these Christmas picks from Walmart, some twine, and 6 of these large skewer sticks from Dollar Tree. I started by using some wire cutters to cut all the webbing out of the center of both tennis rackets. Next, I pulled off the black plastic strips from around the outsides of the rackets. Once I had the tennis racket stripped down, I took one of the skewer sticks and measured it to fit vertically in the middle inside of the racket and cut it to size. I then measured out and cut 2 more vertical pieces so that one fit on either side of the middle piece. I followed the same steps to measure and cut the 4 horizontal wood pieces to go across the 3 vertical pieces. After I had all the pieces cut, I took those pieces and used them to measure and cut the skewer sticks for the other racket. I used 3 skewer sticks per racket. Starting with the vertical pieces, I placed hot glue on both ends of the skewer stick and placed it on the inside of the racket and held it to let the glue dry. I then repeated this step to attach the 2 other pieces. Since metal and hot glue don't mesh too well, I went back and reinforced the skewer pieces with some extra hot glue on the inside of the racket. I also repeated these steps to attach all the horizontal pieces on top of the vertical pieces. Here is how both rackets turned out once I had all the skewer pieces in place. I then took them outside and gave them 2 coats of Rust-Oleum satin spray paint in the color nutmeg. Once the paint was dry, I took some twine and used hot glue to attach it to the handle of the racket. I used dabs of hot glue as needed while wrapping the twine. Next, I took some more twine and using hot glue, wrapped the top curve of the racket with the twine just down below the first horizontal piece of skewer. When I had the top wrapped, I used a small dab of hot glue and some more twine to create long twists around the side of what is now the snowshoe. I repeated this step on the opposite side. I then repeated all these steps to create a matching set with the other tennis racket. I used a generous amount of hot glue to attach the 2 snowshoes together at the handle, with one laying across the other. I also used some hot glue at the very top where the 2 snowshoes touched. To add a little decoration, I took 2 picks from Walmart and cut the long stems off, and then used hot glue to attach them to the snowshoes where the 2 handles came together. Then, to finish off this project, I made a bow using Dollar Tree burlap ribbon and tied it to the top of the snowshoes right above the floral picks. I then dovetailed the ends of the bow and trimmed off the excess twine, and this one is finished. I am super happy with how these snowshoes turned out. Here is a look at the snowshoe ornament that inspired this larger version of the snowshoes. Mine cost a little over $1 more, but it makes up for it in size. Here is the final reveal of all of today's Pottery Barn inspired Christmas decor pieces. But first, I wanted to include this screen to show what it would have cost for me to buy all the pieces I made today from Pottery Barn versus what I spent to make them myself. I saved a total of $287.50. Now that's not a bad chunk of change in savings. I absolutely love how all of these turned out. I love that I was able to recreate these pieces for a fraction of what it would have cost to buy them from Pottery Barn. Which one of these projects is your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. This was a tough choice for me because I love them all, but I guess if I had to pick one favorite, it would be the Merry Christmas sign. I want to thank each and every one of you for stopping by, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help me out here on YouTube, and if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, what are you waiting for? Click that button and stick around for a while. I have tons of fun projects on the way. Also, please don't forget to go check out the Christmas collab playlist that I left in the description box below. I'll see y'all next time.